Hi, welcome back to 8-Bit Resurgence. Today we're going to be talking about the GFD-4000. Now you're probably wondering, what's a GFD-4000? Well, it's an FD-4000 where the mechanical drive has been replaced with a Gotek. So stay tuned and I'll discuss a bit of the history behind what I did and show it to you working, and I'll be showing you how you can do this for yourself if you like. So the GFD-4000. Now, the idea for this came quite a long time ago. Back earlier this year, I reverse engineered the FD series board, and that being the FD-2000 and the FD-4000. They're essentially the same board with slight configuration changes between the two, like a different floppy controller, faster CPU, different drive ROM, and some jumper settings. But and then of course the between the 2000 4000 there's the drive mechanism difference, right? The FD-2000 has an HD mechanism, so 1.6 meg high density drive, and the FD-4000 has the extra density drive. Now, after I finished designing that and making the cases, and you've seen all of that in the previous 3 videos, I always had it in the back of my mind that I wanted to try to get that Gotek to work, because, you know, for those of you that don't know what a Gotek is, it's a floppy drive emulator. So it essentially replaces the mechanical floppy drive that you'd have installed in your, you know, FD-2000 or FD-4000. How it accesses images is or disks is they are all represented as image files, so D81s and so forth. Now, I knew that the Gotek would work in a in a 1581. I mean, that's been done before with the CBM 800K double density disk in the Commodore format, but it's never been successfully done on the FD series drives. So I thought, well, I'd give it a try. So I put my Gotek in, and I used my preferred firmware, which pretty much everybody does use it, which is flash floppy. And sure enough, I got it to work in the CBM 800K double density native Commodore mode. However, I couldn't get it to work in any other mode. I tried jumper settings, I tried configuration settings, trying to match the emulated drive mechanism to what I expected the FD series drive would need, and I wasn't successful. The best I could ever get was a 1581. So this started happening, I started doing this all around June of 2024, and I'd had some conversations with Kier, the developer of Flash Floppy, over the years. So I reached out to him and told him what I wanted to do, what I was trying to accomplish, and the guy's great. I mean, he made time that day and sat down, and we discussed this, what kind of drive I was using, what it was for, what kind of mech goes in it, so forth. So we started running some debug firmware on the Gotek. So I'd run some tests, I'd send him the files, he'd work his magic on the firmware, look at what kind of results we were getting, and probably a couple hours passed going back and forth testing, creating files, and like I said, a couple hours later, we had it working. We had it working on the FD-4000 format. And then once we had that working, then I said, hey, how about the extra density? And he said, yeah, sure. There's a good chance that it won't work on the older Gotek, but he suspected that it would probably work fine on the Gotek 435, which is the latest version of the Gotek. So anyway, he made those changes and I tested it, and sure enough, it worked. I didn't have a 435 with me, so I was using the STM32 CPU-based Gotek, and that was working pretty reliably for me. So once we had it working, I built it into my FD-4000 and started testing. I'm going to show you before we will eventually get to the computer, and I'll demonstrate it working for you. But first, I'm going to show you the Gotek. So this is a gray version of the Gotek that I can use. I think it's actually the first actual Gotek that I tested with. No, it's not. It's a 435. It's the one I got afterwards. I was actually testing the STM32 first because that's all I had at the time. But this one is a modified firmware, updated version of it. You can probably see the jumper settings. Those are the jumper settings for the FD-2000 or FD-4000. And it's your standard Gotek. It fits inside the drive nicely. It's got the nice large OLED thumb drive, the two buttons for going up and down images, or you can use the rotary encoder as well for selecting your drive images. And yeah, that's the Gotek. It plugs in just like a regular floppy drive. There's the ribbon cable, goes there, power there, and that's it. In terms of the firmware, these changes will eventually end up in the release of Flash Floppy, because he does firmware releases every once in a while. These changes don't exist yet in the production or the release version of Flash Floppy, so that will eventually get there. So in the meantime, we just have to use a development version of Flash Floppy. So just to compare, there is the mechanical drive and the Flash Floppy. They're similarly sized, slightly smaller for the Gotek over the mechanical drive. This mechanical drive is a TEC, FD-235J, and so they'll essentially do the same function, except with the Gotek, you don't need any floppy disks. Now, how does it work? Well, the reason why it didn't work initially without a firmware change is the FD series drives format the disks a little bit differently than your standard PC format. And because of that, it doesn't work using standard configurations. Something had to change for the FD series drive, and those were the changes that Kier did. So you have to have that particular firmware in there. You also, in order to make this work, you have to have very specific drive images. So if you're going to be using an FD-2000, you have to have a very specifically sized image, and the same goes for the ED and the native double density 800K images. Without those specifically sized images, it won't work. You won't be able to format disks. So those those images I'm going to make available. I'm actually going to make all of this stuff available through GitHub shortly after the release of this video, so you guys can try it all yourselves. I want to show you the drive itself with it installed, and this is the one that I'm going to be testing. It's not the very first one that I made. The very first one went to the guy that dreamt up the name GFD-4000. That was a friend of mine, Commodore Sam. He had come up with the idea of just, Gotek FD-4000, so we kind of grabbed onto GFD-4000. I've developed a new label that is currently in production. I don't have it yet. If I did, this would say GFD-4000 on it. So he got the first one. The first one I built was the blue metal case drive. So he'll probably be showing it around after I post this video. He's been kind enough to keep it quiet all these maybe months he's had this thing. I just hadn't gotten around to it. I did want to test this drive out thoroughly. I wanted to make sure that the firmware was working well before I, promote it and offer it up to people to use. I've been using it since June, and it works really great. I hardly use floppy disks anymore when I want to access floppy images. I just have all my utilities and all the programs that I use day to day as images on my GFD, and I just it's really nice. You can spin through the rotary encoder. You can name the images whatever you want, and it's really easy to find what you want. You can go up and down directories. You can do all sorts of things with it. It's very handy. It's really nice to have the OLED display. I'm a sucker for displays anyway, and this one's really nice. It's got nice large letters for the file names, and it's got it shows the track and side that you're reading from or writing to, so that's really nice as well. Now the images, they have various extensions. Essentially they're all D81s of different size, but we have different extension names built into the firmware that we're going to be using to identify the different file types. So a D81 is going to be the extension we're going to be using for the native CBM 1581 formatted disk. Then we have a D1M, and a D1M is the native 800K double density CMD format. D2M, of course, is the FD-4000 HD image, which is 1.6 megs in size, and the ED disk is the D4M extension. Now, I just want to make it clear that adding a Gotek doesn't change the functionality of this. So whatever an FD-2000 with a Gotek or an FD-4000 with a Gotek can do with a mechanical drive, it can do it with a Gotek. It doesn't do anything any different. The circuit board's the same. It's just a different drive mechanism. It's a floppy drive emulator. So you can copy to disks, erase them, anything that you could do with a floppy disk, a physical floppy disk, on a regular mechanical drive, you can do with the Gotek. The major difference is that you don't need disks anymore. So we all know that ED disks are expensive, and a lot of people say, "Oh, why have an FD-4000? Because you can't get the disks anymore." And that's pretty much true. I mean, you can get disks. They are quite expensive. They're about $20 or more a piece. Sometimes you can get a deal on them. But the beauty of the GFD, or using the Gotek drive in one of these devices, is you've got an unlimited supply of ED discs or HD discs or whatever you want. You start with one image, you rename them, you make a whole, you can put 10 or 20 or 50 of them on your thumb drive, call them whatever you want, rename them so that the file names will indicate roughly what's in there. So it could be like games 1, games 2, or it could be word processors or terminal software or whatever you want to call it, utilities. And then you just use your rotary encoder and spin your way to the image that you want. You just wait a second for the drive to settle on that to lock into that image. And then you access it, and you can format, you can do whatever you want with it. It's really, really nice. So that's all I really wanted to do about with my rambling on about the GFD before I get to show you a few things. I'm not going to spend a whole ton of time going over what you can do with an FD-4000 because we all have seen that in a previous video. But what I will be showing you is how you can access different images on the GFD, and I'll show the display kind of up close so you can see that. So let's go over to the computer, and I'll hook this guy up, and I'll show you how it works. So we have our GFD 4000 powered up, and you can see the display. So this is the display here, and it'll show you what image you are looking at. So you can see it's image 2 of 12 on the disk, and down here it shows track, and it shows track point whatever, and it's basically the top or the bottom, and the file name is there. There's your thumb drive with all your files in it. The 2 buttons are shown before, and the rotary encoder. Otherwise, it's still an FD 4000 drive. So let's start with looking at the blank images. So this is a blank image. As you can see, it says blank dd81.cbm, and if we do a directory, it will show us the 3160 blocks, which is typical of a Commodore formatted disk. So then we're gonna switch over to the native, and we'll do a directory of that. And there's the native disk. And then we'll go to the HD one, which is the next highest capacity. And we are now looking at a 6,336 block disk image that's empty. And then we'll switch it over to an ED image, and we'll do a directory of that. And there we have 3.2 megs. So, this is going to be a really quick demo because there isn't that much to say other than, spinning the rotary encoder and choosing an image. So here is CMD utilities disk. It's a double density disk, and there's the 2 disks. We can change directory on that, and we can do a directory. We can load fcopy if we want off that, and you can see it's loading. See the tracks change. You could run it, and there it's loaded. So that does work, and then we can try other things. This is an FD utilities disk. And there's the FD utilities, HD utilities disk. have a loaded disk, an ED disk that I was using before, that contains all sorts of different things that I use on there. And so there's games. Just load a game, I guess. Let's see what's in there. Got Jumpman, one of my favorites. Okay, but this is device 10 right now, and we know Jumpman won't load on device 10, so we can use the swap button. Now it's device 8. So as you can see, all the same features of the FD-4000 work with this Gotek powered FD-4000 or GFD-4000. So it's just loading away. If you can see, the tracks are changing, and there it is loaded. So that's really all there is to it. I mean, you can choose whatever disk you want. This is the SmartTrack utilities disk. You can just choose whatever image you want. You can make your own images. You can, anything that you could do with an FD-4000, you can do with the GFD-4000. Except you never have to have a floppy disk in your hand. Never have to swap out disks. You just spin the rotary encoder till you get to what you want. Backing it up is really easy. You just take your thumb drive and copy it to your hard drive on your PC. Add files, just copy files to your thumb drive and then put it back in, and off you go. So that's really all that there is to the demo. I mean, you just choose the image that you want and it's there for you to use. I hope you enjoyed this show of the GFD-4000. The one thing that I forgot to cover, that I'm going to cover right now before I wrap things up, this is supposed to be the end of the video, but you're probably all wondering, how do I get this for myself? Well, the firmware, like I said, is not available in the regular release of Flash Floppy right now, but there is a particular version of this firmware that is meant to work on the FD Gotek drive. So I've created a GitHub that right now it's a placeholder, but after I publish this video, I'm going to upload all the files. So I'm going to upload some pictures of the configuration of the Gotek. I'm going to upload the blank images. I'm going to upload a thumb drive image. So basically you just unzip that to the root of your thumb drive, and that's also going to have the firmware on it. So if you already have a flash floppy, you just stick the thumb drive in and hold down the two buttons on the front of the Gotek and turn it on, and then release, and it'll update your flash floppy with the appropriate firmware, and that's it. It's going to already have images on there. If you do end up wiping out your source blank images, they're always going to be available on the GitHub for you to use. So who can use this? Anybody can use it, provided you have an FD original or reproduction drive. You can just take your drive mechanism out, take your floppy, your Gotek floppy emulator, put that in, update it with the firmware, and then you're set. You can start playing with it right away. Yeah, so eventually you'll be able to use the flash floppy release firmware as soon as he puts, does it, and the next release will have all this code in it. But in the meantime, just use the firmware that comes on the thumb drive from the GitHub, and you'll be all set. I have made arrangements with a friend of mine that does Gotek. He's been doing Goteks for a long time. I'll include a link to his eBay shop in the description, he has all the source code and everything, so he can make a functioning Gotek for you. If you don't have one and you don't want to mess around with programming, he'll be able to set you up with a Gotek for a fair price. Otherwise, if you have an STM32 Gotek, an older one, go ahead and try it. It'll work fine for the FD-4000. You might find it's a little flaky on the FD-4000 just because it's not fast enough. And if you're shopping for a Gotek, just make sure you buy a 435 Gotek. That's the most recent Gotek as of filming of this November 2024. And you'll be all set. So it's a great little project. It's a lot of fun to update your FD drive with this. It's been a long time coming. Like I said, I've been using this since June of 2024, and it's November now. And yeah, I've been using it, almost daily, and it just works all the time. It's a really great thing, especially if you want to take it to a buddy's house. You want to bring all your images with you. You don't have to bring a ton of floppies. Everything is right there. It's some might say it's as good as a hard drive, and it's not bad, in comparison. But the CMD hard drive gives you partitions of 65,000 blocks, so 16 megs. This in the 4000 configuration, you get 12,000 blocks. So it's a smaller capacity, but it's as many 12,000 block segments as you'd like. So it is what it is. It's a floppy drive with emulated floppies. It's really great. It's a lot of fun. So I hope you enjoyed this, and please do comment if you have something to say, if you like it, if you think it's a dumb idea, let me know, whatever. If you have any questions, I'll try to get to them as quick as I can. If you like the video, thumbs up if the feeling takes you, and we'll see you in the next video. So take care. Bye for now.